So guys, Steven here today. Kind of sorry. Well, it's fucking insane. Holy shit. So for the longest time, essentially, I've been pretty much fighting against myself to put out this video on this idea that I call the law of negation. And it's essentially something that I kind of stumbled upon. And one of my insights and moments of, enlightenment, like a while ago, I want to say almost close to a year. And it was essentially this idea that you know how for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction, right? Now that's dealing with the physical plane, like the multi-dimensional part of reality that is only tied to physical properties. So the things you see, hear, touch, taste, those five senses, right? Now, what I gleaned was this also fucking applies on the abstract level. As I'm saying this, I'm really striving to make sure that I use the right word, because as we know, when you use a fucked up thing, you use the wrong word to point to the wrong thing, you end up not only already warping reality, but then warping it in a bad way, in a way where it is not aligned. When the labels are tied to the right object, it's almost like there's a sync. It goes sync, and it goes sync, and they're aligned. When they're not, it's almost like it goes and that's where you get holes in reality. Literally, it's almost like in fucking programming when you get like what do you call it? Runtime error or logic errors or compile time errors. When literally the program just glitches. It's like literally like the fucking movie in the Matrix. Actually, it's not. I don't remember seeing things like that represented. So I'll just finalize that. It's just like it's literally as if there's literal space parts and space-time continuum where reality is just glitching. It's like, anyways, I actually noticed it when I would go skateboarding, and like there are places where you could clearly feel you should be just swag surfing, flowing extremely smoothly, but it doesn't. It's almost like maybe actually playing soccer. Sorry. It's like the ball should be moving smoothly and everything, but it's like something is impeding it. And then that's how I noticed there are like these exact holes and stuff throughout the field. It's not just, you're not just looking for the fucking hole, but it's like this multi-dimensional glitch. I feel like there's more to that. But anyways, what I was gonna say is that this idea particularly ties to, for now, I'll just describe it simply as like the linguistic layer of reality, meaning the part of reality that is based up of words, right? And so I realized that essentially when you commit a bad deed, to literally counter the effects of that bad deed, you do the deed that literally opposes it. That is, you do the deed that is its equal and opposite reaction. Just like in physics, it works the same with fucking words. And how I came to this realization, I actually realized that this is what fucking girls did. Because they'll do shit. For example, sometimes my mom will scream at me, and then literally the next second, she's like singing fucking church songs. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? But it's like, literally, I can see how it's like, there's negative frequency. She's like operating this negative frequency. She's like yelling, blah, blah. And then literally she just like mind fucks herself to go into higher frequency just by saying or just by doing a prayer. And it blew my mind. I could not believe it, how quickly of a switch, how quickly of a change someone could occur, or how quickly of a, I don't want to say face because that's fucked up, but how different someone could radically be from literally one moment to the next. And it's by this law of negation. And so what you're doing is you're literally playing with the frequency and the energy of reality, right? So, and I think primarily the reason why I didn't want to put this out was because I felt like it would create this scenario where people were like, oh, I shot this guy, and then now I can actually negate that deed by doing the opposite of murdering, right? And so people would just go around killing people and then making it not seem as if it ever happened. This is literally how it occurs. The words kind of doesn't make sense that they should be possible, but multi-dimensional reality is a multi-dimensional reality is a multi-dimensional reality is a multi-dimensional reality. And I always say, if you always think about the fucking energy and the fact that there's a lot you can fucking do with energy, the possibilities are literally infinite. And it's almost kind of scary when you think about it. But it's literally that. I can think of a moment, for example, one time with my ex, like, she killed a spider, right? She found a spider in, like, her room. Tried to get her not to, but she fucking did it. Like, I saw how, like, she was just, like, compelled by this urge to kill this thing. So it's like, bitch, you fucking killed a life form, so now you gotta make it up. So I had her fucking plant a seed. Because I believe taking a life is murdering, but then bringing life into life itself, planting a seed, right? Cultivating a garden. I don't want to say making babies because it's not as literal. Because you always have to remember that when you take a life form out of reality, it's not just you and that life form whose relation, whose interaction, whose connection, whose energetic interaction gets cut, whose energetic connection gets cut, that whose spiritual bond or spiritual camaraderie to one another gets cut. But it's like that entire fucking ecosystem, that entire fucking multi-dimensional ecosystem that life form was found in also fucking suffers that. And I think that's the thing that we don't realize is this third thing is that happens, this thing between you and it gets cut out. Between that and where it was gets cut out. But then there is this thing, it's almost like because this energetic scenario or energetic effect occurred as soon as that ecosystem changed, because as that life form was no longer there, reality changes, and then ramifications occur. Thus, it's literally like this energetic wave is created, or I want to call it almost like a halo, or it's like this concentric circles just moving outward, right? It's like moment of event, impact reality, and it just propagates throughout reality. That occurs, and then the same thing occurs with when you and it get cut out, right? So no longer now, this thing that was living there is no longer alive. That creates an energetic impact, not only yourself, you see death, you see a dead corpse, like all that shit. So that's another one. And these rings fucking will mesh, and it creates like this massively fucking negative karmic effect. And I think that's the reason why ultimately murder is wrong, because it is not only just the act, right? The act of removing a life form. It is not only also the fucking planting of a seed upon your mind of saying that it's a permissible action to kill, right? A life form. it's not only either, so I mentioned the thought. So planting the seed is the thought, right? And then it's also not only just making it to where because you performed a deed and you thought it, speaking about it in a way that it might lead to a scenario where you rationalize it as being a good thing, as being a positive thing, right? So you start actually talking about murder as if it's positive. Not only those three things, right? But it literally creates like this energetic footprint on that particular space and time. But now specifically I'm referring to that land, right? On that particular land, it creates almost this energetic footprint that says, here in this land, this is the type of shit that occurred. And it's almost like a fucking stigma for the land, right? Like, we hear about how, like, fucking nuclear bombs of the past still today have ramifications. Like, they're still felt. You're still feeling the radiation because the land is still fucking holding that energy, right? It's still dealing with the impact of that energetic, highly negative energetic event, right? It's like the land fucking changes. It gets marked, and it almost gets. It's almost like this, like uh, a seal, right? Like, because instead of it being blessed, right? Instead of here in this land, there is an abundance of fruition of infinite potential for all life forms. People literally evolve on spiritually and on all other life forms just by being here, just by living on this land. Instead of that blessing, there's this curse where it's like, in this place, life forms have permitted themselves to kill, right? And like, when you think about that, where a place like that has been marked for all time and space to be that sort of place, it almost creates a situation to where the places that have so commonly been referred to as hell, right? Has hell occur, right? Because when something like that happens, the land is not blessed, so it's not fruitful. So slowly but surely, it no longer even is able to see its aliveness. Remember that everything has an aliveness to it. I just harped on it in detail. And thus, because it's unable to see its own aliveness, it literally begins to see that life is futile. Because it begins to see that life is futile, it literally accepts, or it might lead to the moment where it accepts the idea that there's no point to all of this shit. And that's when fucking its great demise occurs. Right? Instead of now spending its energy to bloom beautiful trees, bloom fruit, bloom genetic or different types of genetic varieties of plants, fruits, crossbreeding them, making them look epic, adding one strength to another because that one really needs it, and then this one actually evolves by that process. Instead of doing all this incredible thing, it just does nothing, and thus slowly decays, thus slowly just dying, wilting, right? And then this is how deserts are formed, barren lands, lands that produce no fruit, lands that are not fruitful, by that energetic karmic footprint. Now, to point back to the law of negation, you have to remember that everything can be negated. And that's why, for the longest time, I didn't want to say this, but I think maybe God, higher intelligence, universe, whatever it is, like really pushing me to put this out there now, because maybe I actually put or built the spiritual infrastructure and foundation to where now, not only can you understand it to where you can only do fruitful things with it, but then your level of wisdom and like what I call universal life level IQ has increased to where now you know exactly what to do with it to move forward and not devolve, right? To plant even more game-changing seeds automatically by nature instead of fucking doing bullshit, right? So maybe that's why I'm able to put that. So just remember that. Hope I did a good job of explaining it. It was really fucking hard when I even understood it, but just remember that essentially there is always a spectrum, right? What I call the spectrum is essentially think of the set of all possibilities in reality, right? And now this spectrum is actually infinite in length in the sense that there's always a new possibility simply by just like varying one side to the other or changing the composition. If you saw one of the articles I just put out, how like between the two spectrums. So here is the negative spectrum, and here's a positive spectrum. Let's redefine those terms as the unfruitful spectrum, meaning the energy is actually even better. Let's put it as the unbalanced spectrum, and let's put this as the balanced spectrum, right? So as you go from unbalanced to balanced force, you go from one spectrum to the other. And right in the middle is the fucking golden mean of the spectrum. And what I don't really know, I will just call this the fucking Z or zero. That's when literally everything is just like right there, perfectly together in sync, in the perfect composition to only do perfect things. Note that in this, you can actually understand that you can actually be on the unbalanced spectrum and perform swag surfingly fruitful seeds, just like you could be on the balanced spectrum and be performing unfruitful seeds. So this reminds you again that it's all about the fucking, not only the energy, but you being the swaggy ass, fucking conscientious spiritual operator, the talents, of the energies, of the resources, of everything that's given to you. At the end of the day, you are the thing that makes it what it is. An evolution or a de-evolution, regardless of what spectrum you find yourself in. So now, just remember that, so what I mentioned, I talked about spectrum. Okay, so you can have an unbalanced force, right? So to negate an unbalanced force, you just think of the balanced force. And to negate the balanced force, you think of the unbalanced force, right? Now, this is actually very, 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 very simplified. Oversimplified and extremely overgeneralized. And I'm sorry, it might not even fucking help you at all. But I introduced it in that way so that you could come to essentially start exercising that ability of your logical and reasoning process that will enable you to see the multidimensional, I don't want to say equalities, but the things that are the opposites of each other, right? So, as I mentioned, the opposite of murdering a spider would be, for example, planting a seed, right? And actually, as I say that, you can actually literally feel the two differences in energetic tone, right? Like, one is extremely negative and it's like murder, and then the other one is extremely positive. One literally, at the end of it, upon its execution, leaves the world more lighthearted, while the other one, upon its execution, leaves the world more dense. Now, again, it's all about the swaggy ass operator, right? Because you could kill someone and make it lighthearted, and you could plant a seed and make it dense, right? So it's always, 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 and I'm so fucking glad that everything is literally coming together. It's always about the mode of operation you're operating for, but more specifically, the intent and intentions that you're coming from, right? If you only have good intent, it literally, especially when they're alive, it will actually literally prevent you from doing such things as murder, right? Like in Buddhism, they talk about how like some lineages will actually, there's been great debates because some lineages can prove that, well, karma is comprised of a complete thought, meaning you have an object, right? It's comprised of an object, a thought about the object, and then the resulting or the deciding action that you choose to execute upon the object because you are driven by what they call the motive, right? So they were saying that essentially because of your motive, kind of like what I was saying just not too long ago, because you're the conscious operator, you can kill someone and make it lighthearted, or you could plant a seed and make it dense, right? Like, so they argue that motive, and that's kind of what I said. But my point is, and I think they will slowly come to see the fallacy that they're making, because motive essentially implies that it is something that is self-generated. I mean, actually, put it in other words, it's something that is fucking independent of this process that I just described, of this, because planting karma, planting a good seed, is essentially comprised of these components. An object being there, a thought about the object, and then the action that you choose to execute on the object because you're driven by what they call the motive. But I want to say that essentially, by saying that you can use motive to justify the negative or positive karma being created is actually making a fallacy, because you're essentially insinuating that motive is independent. Motive is impartial of the action that is being committed, and that is not true. I literally just said that motive is driven by self, right? And for something to be able to be used as proof, it has to be independent. That is why it becomes logical. Kind of going back to my fucking article not too long ago about how the base of everything should be fucking logic. Logic, not reason. Reason is, I'm actually going to be talking a bit more about it soon, but logic, it's about fucking logic. 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1, and then extrapolating it or modifying that 1 plus 1, meaning adding however 1 plus 1s you need to essentially answer the question of the multidimensional context that you're in, right? That's what we should be focusing on exercising, because logic will show you the sequential steps that naturally follow, that naturally, without external intervention, always lead to the conclusion. This is what makes something true. It is true because when you think about it, it leads to the conclusion. That's why it can always be proven to be true. And so my point is, adding motive to this thing is not actually a good thing, because for it to be for it to actually play a more concrete part in that process, for it to make our methodology or way of assessing what is karma and then what is being created? Is there a positive karma or a positive karmic imprint being created, or karmic seed being planted, or is it a negative? For it to actually help us in doing that, it has to be impartial. And we just proved that motive is not, because it's literally driven by that conscious operator's values. And that's another thing that I'm always kind of talking about, but I feel like I should do more. Everything is based on values. I don't give a fuck. I'm so mad every single time I go to class or read a book, and they're like, blah, 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 theory this, consequentialism, blah. I'm like, bitch, do you not fucking understand? Like, you're talking about the end effect when we should be fucking striving to teach the individual the fucking individual Lego block, the component, the base Lego upon which all fucking Legos are built upon, that creates the fucking Lego castle. How else are you able to understand that your moral process, your moral theory is actually sound if you haven't even realized the foundational thing that builds that moral theory to where it is geared towards thinking about things in one way or the other? It's all about fucking values. What you value guides your North Star. It becomes the thing that you use to essentially discern between making choice A or B. By your North Star, you're going to choose A or B, because that's what's going to tell you what is most important. By doing that, you're over and over referring to your North Star. You come to almost of a automated process, or it's literally like there is this pattern in which you see things that you clearly start to be able to recognize, almost like an algorithm. And that becomes the fucking moral theory. I actually wrote about this in that fuck girls thing, like how it builds, right? And I talked about use mega optimus prime value being like, this shit is so fucking priceless, but it's so fucking annoying how the most important things are oft the ones that are ignored. And the bullshit, let's argue calling this effect this instead of that, because it makes us feel like we're actually philosophers when we're actually just jacking off, bullshitting, wasting fucking capital, stockholder money, not doing shit, and then like being like, hey, we need more money for research. Fuck all that shit. Like, that's why I'm so glad so many things are about to change, because literally we should have been in flying vehicles, literally, and they should have been affordable a long time ago, literally, being operatable by all people, literally, eons ago. But because we're doing stupid shit like that, we're not. We're wasting resources, and then we come back and wonder why the fuck the world is fucked up. Bitch, it's because you're fucked up. It's the individual, and you go from the individual to the community, because the community is comprised of individuals, and every individual makes his own fucking individual choice. So if you teach the individual how to make good choices, you'll get a swaggy ass community. Or actually use the word, a swaggy ass ecosystem, which will create a swaggy ass world. Individual, ecosystem, world. But anyways, back to negation. Just remember that, like, if you can feel the energetic tone of the object that you did, right? Say for example, you talk shit, or you wrote graffiti and it was bad words somewhere you shouldn't have, and it was really bad. not only was it graffiti, but like you started doing some like fucking voodoo magic shit, trying to fuck people up. You did bad shit, like really, really bad, right? Now you think, okay, how can I negate that, right? Maybe by doing that same act and then using something that not only is extremely aesthetically flowing, meaning it's harmonious with the environment, it's not like an aberration, like you can clearly see it's out of place, but then it's also adding a tremendously positive, energetic output to the environment, right? Literally, that is the definition of alchemy, transmutation, turning a negative into a positive. And as I mentioned, when you think about the spectrum and all the multidimensional ways of operations, all the ways of being, all the ways of expression, you literally realize like possibilities are endless and infinite. So my one thing though is do not fucking rely on the fact that you have the law of negation has like a net to just be like, haha, I can just fuck up the world now because I can just negate it. Because remember, I always say this, something I think I mentioned this a while ago, right? And another reason why I'm kind of against that lineage of Buddhism that says that you can argue motive, because I'm 100 fucking percent fundamentally agreeing with this idea. Every single thing is an energy, right? Everything is energy. Every time you pose an act, every time you say a word, every time you do it, you have a thought, you're outputting energy onto reality, right? Furthermore, every single one of those outputs, I use the word essence, meaning it literally, it's like, you know how in the olden days when they used to make statues, they would take this thing and then go, that's how we build, literally, we build reality by those things. Every single time you do any of those three things, you're doing that, right? Now, if you extrapolate this means that literally all the things that have occurred in human or in life itself have left their mark, have left your energetic essence on reality. Now, this is where this idea actually becomes a fucking game changer because you're like, bro, we can literally clean up the world, right? I actually mentioned this a while ago, how when you do a lot, when a whole group, say a whole ecosystem is negative, and maybe they move on, that what happens is that place still has that energetic essence there. And the sad thing is a child might be innocent, but he'll walk into that energetic field, that energetic pile of bullshit or mess, right? And then he will be influenced by that, right? You hear about possessions, shit like that, spirits. I mean, it doesn't just come out of nowhere, right? You have to always remember that everything occurs because of something that we did. Every single thing you see in your world right now, in reality, on TV, whatever, it is exactly and only because of something you did individually. And when you start thinking like that, pointing the fingers on yourself instead of others, the game changes tremendously. Like, I fucking shit you not. And not only that, you literally reach spiritual maturity and then come really, really close to like enlightenment. Because that is the idea. To see that you are the fucking operator. And by that, you truly can be the one that brings forth the golden age. Brings forth that, not only just that manifestation of it, but all the things that it implies. Wherever you are, on whatever multidimensional context or reality you find yourself in, or whatever plane of existence or operation you're primarily operating in. And it's so beautiful to think about that. But my point is, that really changes everything. Because, wow, like, fuck, like, how many times have I just walked somewhere and all of a sudden I'm pissed? Holy shit, go figure. And then you're like, it's kind of like that story, that video of that kid who had an anger issue, and his dad or whatever told him, every time you get angry, drive a nail on the fucking fence. And he did it. And after a period of time, he's like, yeah, I did it. And then he's like, okay, now look at all the fucking holes. And he's like, oh, fuck, yeah. And then it's like, shit, those holes will never be removed now. Like, that earth is scarred for life because he chose to express that negative energy in that uncontrolled way, right? So really, like, you really are fucking, like, you truly are a game-changing piece. Like, you just really have to see that. And so now, like, it's like, oh shit, negation, right? So not only, that's why I'm like, don't use it as a safety net, but rather see it as solutions and things that you never thought were possible. Something like racism, right? Like, yeah, like, okay, you had nothing to do with it, right? But think of what that means if you're in a reality where every day you wake up and you're literally subjugated to someone else, and he gives you no reason for it. Rather, he literally whips you as if it is by divine law that you should be whipped. Like, imagine how you would feel living like that. Not just for 5 days, not just 5 years, but entire decades, millenniums. Literally like that. Literally believing that, like, your entire life energy is only devoted to getting up, getting whipped, picking cotton, and then having your wife being raped, like, just because the guy felt like it that night, because he wanted some sexual variety, and like his wife, he liked the titties and ass of a black girl instead of his wife, and then like she's forced to bear those child, right? And like, just think about all those things, and then you're like, fuck, man, like, yeah, okay, I didn't play a part in it, but then at least the least I can do is sit down and shut the fuck up. What I always say is, I call it inviting silence, or bringing in stillness, or right. So it's that, you know how I always write: inviting silence, bringing stillness, or respecting the pause. And I'm referring to, like, in music, you know, you're actually supposed to pause. Like, there are parts of music where literally for like 2, 3, 4 seconds you don't say anything. And it's not only for the singers to have a chance to catch their breath, but to also recenter themselves spiritually, so that way the music comes out on beat, on rhythm. It's not rushed. And thus, now everything is harmonious. So now to bring that in this context, it's like when someone talks, even if you already know what they're saying, even if you don't agree, at least have that respect to let it sink in, to sit with it, like my friend, fucking artist. And then when you at least do that, like, it's like you open yourself to seeing things that you didn't see before, as opposed to just like reacting, saying shit as soon as possible. As people say, when someone's talking, instead of like listening, you are instead waiting for your chance to talk. Instead of doing that, you open your mind and you're like, oh, right? And it makes a huge difference. And all of a sudden you're like, what can I do? What can I do, right? And there's so much, especially when you realize how fucking blessed you are compared to some people. Some people literally were born with, like, not a hand or a feet, or they were born in a place where they were ostracized from the get, just because of who they were, right? Or they were just told that they were never going to amount to shit, and so to not even try. So many things, right? And it's like, wow. So just remember that. And that's why I say that, because I want you guys to kind of use this law with responsibility, right? Hold great power with responsibility, because when you only see it as that, you will be granted that divine wisdom. You will be helped by that divine intervention to only always use it exactly when you fucking need it. And because of that, you use it in the swaggiest fucking way. Anyways, kind of rambled. As you can tell, she's like pooping in her pants at this point. But anyways, gotta go. Hope you guys get something out of this. And as always, swag the fuck out. It's like the worst fucking thing you could ever do is to tell someone, after they tell you that they were born in unfair circumstances or not in the same equal starting chance of circumstances as you, that it doesn't fucking matter, or that you should just suck it up. It's like, what? How fucking much more of an entitled little bitch you are. Like, oh wow, yeah. Because now you're in success. People who aren't should just shut the fuck up and suck it up, because you have the right to say that, because you went through shit and someone is like still dealing with even just living. They should just, it's like, bro, I just wanna, but yeah, it's like the worst fucking thing. Empathy, empathy, empathy. Compassion, compassion, compassion. Love, love, love. Gratitude, gratitude, gratitude. Got these 4 things, swaggy ass fucking communication. And it'll be like connected on all fucking levels. So it just fucking came to me. It almost fucking actually made me cry. And I was like, dude, the higher senses, higher abilities, specifically the ones granted to someone by virtue of them being man, granted to someone by virtue of them being women. For them to be fully activated, that sexual energy must flow. It must be activated as well. Once that is grounded, it's literally as if you're connected to all of your abilities, to all of your talents and faculties. From then, it's almost like you start fucking seeing higher shit occurring. You can literally see higher influence, or the use of higher powers to essentially influence people on a higher level, to where they don't even realize it. Like, it's literally like people, I don't want to say girls, possessing other people, boys, without them even realizing. Simply because knowing have we capped ourselves, right? That whole, whoever controls the sexuality and the sexual energies controls the soul, right? Got that? Boom, capped, can't even reach that level, and then we just puppet. It's actually really scary as I said that and even realized that. But then I was like, bruh, what we can do. It's like there's a reason for everything that happens today, and karma is so fucking practical. Like, it's so logical, it makes sense. You just gotta have the patience to wait for higher X to reveal why that happened.